What up? Today we're going to be doing another mock draft. I was supposed to post this yesterday, but Monday, but got a little busy, so it's going to come out Tuesday, probably Tuesday night even. But it is what it is. So we're going to do another mock draft because this past week there has been a lot of things happen. The Panthers obviously moved up to the number one spot with the Bears, and so that pretty much shakes everything up. Honestly, I think that changes this draft more than any other trade could have. I mean, more than a Colts trade could have. More than a. I mean, I don't think another team could have traded up that would have changed the team more or changed the draft more because they just have so many quarterback needs up in the top four now. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started on this. Um, so the Panthers have the first pick, and I actually think this trade for them was pretty bad, honestly. They gave up two firsts, 2 seconds, and not to mention they also gave up DJ Moore. Um, DJ Moore is a number one wide receiver. Maybe not the highest of end number one wide receivers, but he's probably a low end number one, maybe just a really high number two. Either way, they don't really have anything left at that position. I mean, Terrace Marshall's an okay player, but he's no better than a low end two or high end three. But I just especially don't understand this personally when you could have traded two first rounders instead of two firsts and 2 seconds to get Lamar Jackson. I'm not even a big Lamar Jackson fan. He's, I mean, he's not as good of a quarterback as he's a football player. But when there's that good football player and he's won an MVP, he's had success. He wins 70% of his games. I'll give him that much credit. I mean, I would take that over a question mark at quarterback. None of these guys are guarantees. So, yeah, but with that said, I'm going to have the Panthers taking CJ Stroud. He really wowed at the combine, honestly. He, I mean, he won the job there at the combine. I think is the number one quarterback. He probably has the best passing ability of all these quarterbacks, so I think that just puts him ahead. Um, then next I have the Texans, and I'm gonna have them going Bryce Young. This is pretty common and all, but D'Amico Ryans is gonna come in and pick the guy that he wants to try to start his team off in the right foot, and I think that's just gonna be Bryce Young. Obviously he isn't the biggest physical person, but he has a lot of the talent that you're guaranteed more with him than a guy like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. But he his physical abilities, his physical size, and all that might hinder him a little bit in the NFL. The Cardinals, they're gonna go with the best defensive player. You know, they're the only team here that doesn't have a quarterback need. They obviously have their guy in Kyler Murray, and they're gonna go Will Anderson. That's because one man has some issues off field, and we're just not. It's gonna tank his stock a little bit. The Colts, this one is gonna be a bit of a hot take, but I'm gonna have them going Will Levis. He seems a little more their speed. I think he might be a little more day one ready than Anthony Richardson, just a little bit. His processor needs some help. He needs to fix that a little bit, and his touch passes are everywhere. I mean, he if you want a ball on a laser, he can do that, but put some touch on the ball and put a ball gracefully through the air and to get to the receiver, that's going to be more struggle for him. But those are things that I think he can fix. And you know, they they have to have a QB to start winning in Indianapolis. But yeah, so after that, the Seahawks, and they have two picks in this first round. I believe they also have. Let me check. 20. Yes, they do have 20. So this, I'm gonna have them taking Anthony Richardson. I think Geno Smith played really well last year. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they even said they're not out on the quarterbacks yet. And I think with a guy like Anthony Richardson still on the board, you just can't pass that up. If they didn't have that pick at 20, I probably wouldn't do this. I wouldn't give them a quarterback here. But they do have that pick at 20. So I really just think it's going to be worthwhile for that. Um, he needs to sit for a little while. And I think a guy like Geno, who had a very unusual route in the NFL of his career, um, he could give him a lot of insight in how to play the quarterback position the right way in the NFL. And so obviously Anthony Richardson is an elite athlete. He is a monster. He has, he's Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, all the best parts of them, except for he just his accuracy's not there. His processor's not there, and that's one thing Will Levis does have over him is he has some accuracy. So, I mean, with Richardson, it's every two plays is that's horrible. You get one great one, but that's just the risk. But I think they're going to take that and try to set up their future that way. I think the best Geno Smith football is behind Geno Smith, so this gives them a chance to prepare themselves for the future. Next, the Lions. This is going to stop the fall of Jalen Carter. Obviously, they had a horrible defense last year, and they've got to fix that. I mean, their offense was pretty solid last year, and so, if you can score 30 points a game, that's great. But if you're allowing 40, it doesn't matter. And last year, they obviously spent the second overall pick on Aiden Hutchinson. And this offseason, a lot of people projected them to need a corner, and that was, their projection. But recently, they've signed Cameron Sutton from the Steelers. I'm not happy about that. And Jeff Okudah's fine, and I believe I'm not sure if Amani Arawariye is still a free agent or not, or if he's on the Lions. But either way, Sutton and Okudah are there for sure, and that's fine. Those are pretty solid players. So I think Jalen Carter his fall here is just a blessing to them. He's someone that will step in and start immediately, not even a question. And as long as he can stay out of trouble off the field, he should be a long-time starter for the Lions and be a really good player in the NFL. With the Raiders on the board, they were probably really hoping Jalen Carter was still on the board here. They would have rushed that card in if he was, but he's not. So they're going to go with the corner that can start day one the best, and that's going to be Devin Witherspoon. He may not be the best corner in this draft overall, but in terms of starting the first day, you're going to want Witherspoon. And next is Tyree Wilson to the that's not the Cardinals, the Falcons. He probably should have been drafted earlier, but the run of quarterbacks right here really hindered that. Tyree Wilson may not be the most effective player immediately, but I think in time he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. I think the first couple years he might, have 5 to 8 sacks, which is not bad, but maybe year 3 or so he might start hitting mid-high double-digit sacks. He is a monster of an edge rusher, and I just think he's going to be a beast in the league for a long time. The Bears. So a lot of people had them needing a receiver. They don't need that anymore. They have DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. That's a pretty solid receiving core to my opinion. They are going to stick with Justin Fields, but obviously on their needs list they could use a little bit of everything. They've made a couple splash signings on the defensive side of the ball with Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards from Philadelphia, but I feel like they've got to do more to protect their quarterback, and so that's why they're going to take Peter Skoronski. Maybe the safest pick of the tackles, Broderick Jones, Peter Skoronski, and Paris Johnson Jr., but Peter Skoronski is going to have the ability for them to play him at left tackle, left guard. I mean, he can play anywhere on the field, right guard, right tackle, center if you probably need him to. I mean, I think he played tackle for the very most of his college career, but his size can really translate to any position there. However, I think it'd be best to keep him at the left tackle spot and just secure that for as long as Justin Fields needs him. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, and this pick is going to be Christian Gonzalez. They actually are probably going to end up losing Darius Slay. James Bradbury did just re-sign, just a little while ago. So that's a good help, but Christian Gonzalez, he might be the best corner in this class, and he's raw, but if he can really come into it, and I think in Philadelphia he definitely can, he might be the best corner in the league at some point. He is just athletically amazing, and his size is like exactly what you want in that position. So Christian Gonzalez, I think he would be a very good pick and a steal for Philadelphia at this point. Next, we have Tennessee, and I'm going to have them taking Quentin Johnston, the first receiver off the board. They're pretty much on their last leg of contention. They're probably already past it, but they might be able to squeeze one more year out to actual contention if Tannehill can stay healthy and if they can just be a very good team. I believe in Coach Mike Vrabel, but they've run their course. They don't have very many receivers right now. They're losing Robert Woods. They already have, I believe, and Traylon Burks is, I think, okay, but Quentin Johnston can be number one for years, so go ahead and secure that spot down for sure. Next, the Texans. I'm going to have them taking Lucas Van Ness. They obviously took Bryce Young earlier with the second pick, but Lucas Van Ness may not have the highest ceiling ever, but I think he's going to be a very good player in the NFL. He's a huge, big-bodied defensive end who, I mean, he's going to blow up everything. Uh, his power is just that's his move, and it's not stoppable. So I think him for the Texans, who have a very lackluster defensive line, will benefit greatly off of him. For the 13th pick, we have the Green Bay Packers, and this technically hasn't happened yet, but this is under the assumption that Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets. I mean, Alan Lazard signed with the Jets today, and that was apparently on Rodgers' wish list to get Alan Lazard or Odell Beckham to the Jets, excuse me, so he can go there. So if that trade was to happen, I would assume pick 13 would be a Packers pick, as they would trade that for Aaron Rodgers. With that said, I have them taking Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's ironic that they take a weapon now, but he's not my favorite receiver. But he tested a lot better than I expected to. That I expected him to at the combine, and I think that benefits him really well. And I think you could take Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison, but Jackson Smith-Njigba fits that slot role that they need more right now. They obviously have Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs from last year, so getting Njigba would be a guy you can plug right into the slot, and that'd be a great fill for Jordan Love in his future. So we went there, and then the New England Patriots. Their team needs, I think, a funny quarterback, but either way, Joey Porter Jr. He goes a little early, maybe earlier than a lot of people expect, but they need corners. I think they do pretty bad, and I think that he just fits a role that they have, or they need. I mean, and they wish Devin Witherspoon or Gonzalez were there, but not a bad replacement. Next, we'll have the Packers again, and I'm going to have them taking Michael Mayer, the best tight end in this draft class. I mean, he's just it's just a fit they have, and that he's going to work there. I mean, it's funny that they really spend the assets on weapons now for Jordan Love when they wouldn't for Aaron Rodgers. But you have to put guys who are on the same timeline as Jordan Love, and Michael Mayer fits that. So go ahead and get that settled in right immediately. Next, we have the Commanders, and they're going to take Brian Branch. Brian Branch can play anywhere in the secondary, corner, nickel, safety, wherever he needs to. And, that's been a pretty big weakness for the Commanders. They have a great front seven, but nothing to back it up. And, you can get pressure all you want, but if all the receivers are wide open immediately, there's nothing that you're going to stop in reality. So Brian Branch will help them start closing up those holes for sure on the defensive end. Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they are elated that Paris Johnson Jr. is on the board. I mean, Broderick Jones would be one thing, great, high upside, but Paris Johnson is high upside with the higher floor than Broderick Jones. I mean, he really shouldn't be on the board here, I don't think, but it just turns out that way, and it really could turn out this way in real life. I would expect it to be something very close. Him maybe go New England, maybe, but I don't think so. But yeah, I think that'd be a great pick for Pittsburgh, and get a guy that can play Kenny Pickett's blindside for probably a decade and a half. After that, the Detroit Lions. Dalton Kincaid. He's risen up some draft boards recently. He didn't play football a whole lot before, I believe, his last couple years in college, and he was a solid role player until this last year. But that's enough to, 1 year is enough to pull you up that high, and he's an athlete. They've used him in the slot. They use him at a wide receiver position. And the Lions just traded away T.J. Hawkinson this season. They got by with Brock Wright and Shane Zylstra, but I just think having a guy like Dalton Kincaid will fit in perfectly here. After that, the Buccaneers. They are going to take, where is he at? Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones, he fell a little bit, and they have a tendency in Tampa to go BPA, best player available. And so, it just so happens they also could really use a right tackle, or left tackle, excuse me. They obviously have Tristan Wirfs, and if you have Broderick Jones on one side and Tristan Wirfs on the other, that quarterback, whoever it is, should be pretty clean. So I think they'd be really happy about that. Seahawks will take Kalijah Kancey. I think he has, he's risen up the draft boards quite a bit the last couple weeks because of his combine performance, and he is drawing the Aaron Donald comparisons. Maybe it's just the Pitt thing, but whatever. He's really quick for his size. He fires through gaps really good, and he's every bit of 6 foot 280. So that's that's pretty small for the position of defensive interior, but you know if he can do it, he can do it, and I think he'll be fine in the NFL. The Dolphins forfeit pick 21, so pick 22 is the Chargers, and I'm gonna have them taking a bit of a different route here, and I'm gonna have them going with Bijan Robinson. Last draft I had him pretty high, and I was just kind of playing around with some things, being a little different. But this time, I mean, the Chargers have a pretty big concern at that position now, with Austin Eckler seeking a trade or getting permission to seek a trade. He could come back to LA, but this is, if he doesn't, they have a guy who's going to replace him, and they're not going to miss him at all. Bijan Robinson is the real deal, I think, and he's definitely the best running back prospect we've seen in some time, since at least Saquon Barkley. So that'll fit pretty well there. Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to have them taking Zay Flowers. Gives him some speed for sure. He didn't test as good as a lot of people expected, but I don't think it'll be a problem. He obviously plays fast, and that's on the tape. And the Ravens have the GM, Eric DaCosta, had a pretty touchy quote on how they've been drafting receivers and their lack of success there. So bring in another guy, get somebody who can maybe help Lamar Jackson if he's there. But yeah. Next, the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm going to have them stopping the fall of Myles Murphy. They did just sign Marcus Davenport, but I think getting Marcus Davenport, a young running mate with Myles Murphy, would be great. They're another team like the Lions who had a great offense last year, but a horrible defense. And sure up that front seven is going to help that out a lot. So two guys there playing off the edge, playing a little bit inside. Either of them can do either. That's just going to be the best in their best interest. In their best interest, excuse me. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're going to take Deonte Banks. I believe they recently cut ties with Shaquille Griffin, and so they're going to have a hole there for sure. Tyson Campbell had a pretty good year last year, but you got to have more than one corner, more than one guy who can guard receivers, because there are more receivers than one on the field at all times. So, get some help there and help that defense out while Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne hold down the offense. The New York Giants are going to go with Jordan Addison. I think thell pretty happy he fell this far as well. They're in pretty dire need of some weapons. They might have the worst receiver room in the NFL, besides the Panthers now. But Addison slid down the board pretty far. He was wide receiver 1 or 2 for a long time, and now he's wide receiver 3, maybe above Zay Flowers, maybe 4, maybe under. It's likely because he tested so poorly. Combine's not everything, though. Doesn't mean anything. Or doesn't mean everything, at least. Personally, I'd hope he falls to 32 and Pittsburgh takes him, but I see him being a little better than that. So, they need their wide receiver 1, and he can probably become that pretty quick, I think. The Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to go with a different pick here for sure. He's going to be down here because they don't rate him that high. But I'm going to have the Cowboys taking Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington is a guy I think is going to end up being a first-round pick. He's absolutely enormous. He's 6'7", 270. That's close to a tackle. I mean, minus the weight a little bit. But he's not super explosive, but he's sure-handed. And, I mean, a guy like him, they're going to lose Dalton Schultz. So replace the tight end somewhere, and I think he's a great fit. Next, the Buffalo Bills. And they're going to take Anton Harrison. Spencer Brown hasn't really worked out. Deion Dawkins is a little older. He can play either side. He plays left tackle right now at college at Oklahoma, but I think he's a guy that's just going to help their O-line in general. Something they're going to need to fix very soon, keep Josh Allen clean, and to help their run game become relevant. Next, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to have them taking Osiris Torrance, guard out of Florida. He's 6'5", 345. I mean, he's huge. He ate up Jalen Carter in the game against Georgia, and that's Jalen Carter. I mean, the best defensive tackle in football, college football. So, I mean, you've got to be pretty good at least. So, there's not a whole lot of risk there, I don't think. But yeah, after that, the New Orleans Saints, Brian Bresee is going to be their pick. He's fallen down a little bit. Didn't have a whole lot of production in college. His counting stats aren't there, but that's not all that matters. He also only played about 500, or not even 500 snaps in college in his last 2 years. So that's an issue, but I think he's a good enough player. He's a good athlete. He's the normal defensive tackle size, but He's as athletic and agile as a defensive end or an edge rusher almost. So, he's the kind of guy who he's going to end up in the backfield before you know it, and it's not going to matter what you do. So he's just going to be a guy to help them replace the Cameron Jordan hole and do that quickly. That though he's still there, but he's probably going to retire pretty soon. That's what I mean by that. Next, we have the Eagles taking Nolan Smith, and I know this is the same exact picks at 10 and 30 as they did last draft, mock draft for me. Christian Gonzalez and Nolan Smith, but man, they just fit. He tested out of the gym at the combine and raised his stock into the first round for sure. He fits just what they usually do at edge rusher. They have these smaller guys who are just better and fit in their scheme. I mean, when you have as much pressure on the center of the line as you do, as Philadelphia does, you'll be fine. I mean, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. I know they had Javon Hargrave, who's now on the 49ers, but Jordan Davis should be back. As long as there's that pressure there, Nolan Smith, Hassan Reddick, they'll be fine on the edge. Then next we have Kansas City. I'm going to have them taking DeJuan Jones. They're probably going to end up losing both of their starting tackles in the free agency period. Andrew Wiley's probably gone, and Orlando Brown, I don't think he's coming back. They did sign Jawan Taylor out of Jacksonville to play the left tackle position, and DeJuan Jones played right tackle, so I think that's a seamless fit. They could definitely go receiver here, but I just don't see that Josh Downs or what's the other guy's name? I forget. Tank Dell or what's the other one? There's one more. Can't remember right now. Either way, I don't think they're as good as these first round players at that receiver position. I mean, if there's a Zay Flowers here, Jordan Addison falls, I think they'd love it. Jalen Hyatt, who I was trying to think about a minute ago, just came to me. But either way, I just don't feel like they can wait on that. So DeJuan Jones is going to fit a need they have and do that immediately. And then for 32, I know it's the second round, but I'm a Steelers fan, so I'm going to make this pick. And that's going to be, where's he at? I know he's here. John Michael Schmitz. Mason Cole played well this last year, but, he's also played guard in his career, and I think that's where he's going to move to. He may not start even. Kevin Dotson is a pretty solid player, but had some trouble this last year, so you kind of put him on the hot seat a little bit. Move Mason Cole over, and also Kendrick Green. You kind of give him a last shot. Let those three fight it out for that left guard position since James Daniels has the right guard shirt up. And John Michael Schmitz is going to be the future at the center position for the Steelers. So, he's a little bit older, but he's on the same timeline and age as Kenny and then also Paris Johnson. So, really get some just foundational pieces for that offensive line and keep Kenny clean so he can start winning football games. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate all that. One of my videos is over 1,000 views now, and that's shocking in and of itself. So if you, like these, like I said, please like, leave comments, subscribe, do all the things, share it with your friends, or don't. I can't control you. But, with that said, I'm going to try to get this posted tonight. But thank you all for watching again, and peace.